recent weeks, many whistleblowers came out in the open to divulge information that compromised their lives and the lives of their loved ones. Because of the information they carried and their option to speak out, we now know more and more the kind of inner dealings that are happening within the government and in the private sectors. Some of these whistleblowers have become state witnesses to national issues that have rocked the people in becoming more aware.
To come out as a whistleblower, it's a very personal decision. No? You know that you'll be up against very powerful forces in society. If you'll just weigh it logically, to be a whistleblower is dumb. You'll be persecuted. Your livelihood will go away. Your career will be destroyed. You take the risk of being physically eliminated or being legally incarcerated, no? So, if you use your logic, you'll decide not to become a whistleblower.
In exchange for this information, the government has put these people under their custody in accordance with Republic Act 6981 or the Witness Protection, Security, and Benefit Act.
I suffered a lot. There's no protection given to me by this government and of course GMA's term. Yeah, I was never been in the witness protection program like other whistleblowers. Magkano lang naman yun? 6,000? O kung ang ako na whistleblower, may anak, may pamilya ako, kakayanin kaya ng 6,000. Oh. So that's the 6,000 na binibigay ng WPP.
What prompted whistleblowers to expose the kind of information that they know? Is being a whistleblower or state witness worth their safety and lives and those of their loved ones? What are the legal parameters that dictate if a person is qualified to be a state witness or not? Good evening, you are watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News channel. This show is about making the law work for you by giving legal advice on topics that matter to you. I'm attorney Karen Jimeno.
And I'm attorney Nepomuceno. Tonight, we will discuss the Witness Protection Program, what you need to know about the WPP and how a person under the law can be made a state witness or be qualified to be in the program.
Our guests for tonight are Dean Jemmy Lito Festin of the Polytechnic University of the Philippines College of Law and Assistant Secretary Geronimo C. of the Department of Justice. Good evening, Dean.
Good evening, sirs.
Good evening.
Yeah,
Good
welcome
evening,
to the show.
ASEC.
So, ASEC, Indy, and Dean Jemmy. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So, a very interesting topic once again.
Yes, and very good
very
guests
relevant.
to talk about this
Yes.
very relevant topic.
Oo.
So let's start right away. Witness Protection Program. It's very relevant now because we have a high-profile witness.
We've been reading a lot about this thing, and a lot of people are weighing in. Maybe we'll start off with witnesses in general in the role in dispensing justice, no? Because that's quite important. Dean, Jemmy, can you tell us a little bit more about witnesses vis-a-vis the other forms of getting facts, no, in deciding a case?
There could be a material witness. There could be also a corroborative witness. For as long as that witness can testify as to the elements of a crime, then the prosecution can be successful.
And how, in terms of, I guess, deciding a case, how valuable is a testimony of a witness?
Well, if there's no witness to testify as to the elements of the crime, then the case will be dismissed.
All right.
Okay.
No.
Let's go to the Witness Protection Program. One of the interviewees kanina dun sa umpisa ng program said that she didn't even get any protection when she decided to become a whistleblower. So maybe ASEC, Indy, you can tell us about this program. When did it start and how do you qualify for it?
In 1991, this witness protection law, which we call simply, was passed. No? And the basic idea was this. In the Philippine context, in any crime that happens, you need to have evidence of a crime because it's this extreme form of punishment, no? The incarceration, back then the death penalty. So in order to have evidence, there's so many kinds of evidence. One of the primary forms of evidence is testimonial evidence. Yung nakikita mo, narinig mo, naramdaman mo. So if this is the kind of witnesses that you have and you need it for a crime, but you don't provide them protection if they want to report a wrongdoing, the witness will be on their own. No? And ideally, we would want to leave it to the civic duty of citizens, yung moral indignation, yung civil duty. But in reality, you cannot just leave witnesses against powerful bad people and let them spill the beans on what is needed. No? So that is the context. It was a specific remedy to address this problem of lacking evidence to support criminal prosecution. That's why this was designed as a witness protection program, so we can have witnesses in the system, in the program, who can supply evidence on the crime. And just a small note, our conviction rate for witnesses who are in the program is more than 90%. Versus overall national figures, we're looking at 20% if you're not in the witness protection program. If you're in the witness protection, we're hitting over 90%.
Meaning if you have someone in the witness protection program,
Correct.
the success rate, yung dun sa
Correct.
cases where they are witnesses, is
Correct.
90%.
Conviction.
Okay.
More than 90% versus the national figure of about 18 to 20%.
Now, despite, okay, of course, we heard from our initial interviewing about maybe what's lacking in the WPP, but setting that aside first, how do you get admitted into the WPP program?
There's an evaluation process. There are requirements in the law, 5 requirements, and we'll talk about the most guilty aspect maybe in a bit. And you go through a process of evaluation. You get to see if your testimony is needed. It's not something that's superfluous. We don't want people to sign up for the program and then get all the benefits, and at the end of the day, hindi pala kailangan yung testimonya. No? So there are certain thresholds that you have to meet. No? If I can just go back quickly to the earlier comment on not sufficient, because one of the principles in law is the principle of equality. All of us, the 4 of us, if we go into witness protection, it should be fairly treated. But if you're a banker who makes 300,000 pesos versus a vendor who sees a crime, both of them, you get to the program, the benefits are the same.
So they don't distinguish kung magkano yung pera.
Because of the principle of equality. How do you say, I make 1 million pesos a month? You go to the witness protection program, you get 1 million pesos a month. Right. It's not calibrated to your income. No? It's recovered, and it needs indexation, because 1991 to now, Dean will agree, it's been 22 years, it needs updating. It has to be indexed to the rise in income, rise in prices. Kasi dati, ganun nakapeg. Hindi ka naman pwedeng 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. That creates a lot of pressures in the program.
And I'd like to ask, how essential is it that there's a threat to the life or safety of the witness being admitted into the protection program?
That's one of those provided under the law itself. Kailangan there's a threat, sa buhay niya to be killed or forced, or there's intimidation or harassment. That's one of the requirements.
One of the requirements, Dean, is that it has to be a grave felony. In other words, if it's a minor crime, then the whole program doesn't apply. No?
Yes.
So how do you define that? Just for the purpose of our
grave
viewers.
felony, pursuant to the revised penal code, is punishable by capital or afflictive penalties. So the minimum of afflictive would be prison mayor. That presupposes 6 years, 1 day to 12 years. So I would assume it's more than the penalty should be above 6 years. Both to those crimes punished under the revised penal code and under special laws.
Dean, can you give us examples ng mga types of crime na grave felonies?
Mga heinous crimes.
Like, of course,
rape with homicide, robbery with homicide, murder, among others.
Okay.
Plunder.
Yeah.
Carnapping?
Serious illegal detention ba kasama yun?
Kidnapping?
Okay.
That's just
Sige.
Okay.
Now let's go to state witness.
Okay.
What are the requirements naman in order to be considered a state witness, or at least to qualify as a state witness?
Very good. There's a lot of confusion, no? Everybody talks about state witness. Everybody seems to understand what it is. But to understand a witness, you have to start with a regular witness. No? Regular witness means you're somebody who is a witness to a crime. As I said, you perceive through your senses. You saw a crime, you want to testify and furnish evidence on this crime. No? So regular witness yan. If you're a state witness, it means that you are a party to this crime.
In other words, isa ka sa may mga kasalanan.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. And because of, for whatever reason, number one, you feel a conscience pang, suddenly you felt you want to come out, which has happened in many cases. 2, you didn't get your fair share of the loot, you're not happy anymore, you want to rat on your other conspirators. 3, you could be killed because now these are physical. Not only you or your family is under threat. No. So for whatever these reasons, this witness wants to be part of the state witness program, which means that I want to furnish evidence against my co-conspirators. So regular witness has to be clearly differentiated from state witness. For you to be a state witness, there are also requirements to that. It is more stringent than the regular witness because the regular witness gives you protection because you want to testify. If you're a state witness, you want to testify, not only should you meet the regular witness, but the higher standard because you're part of the commission of the crime. So mas mataas yung standard for the...
What are the requirements, Asik?
And one of the most important differentiating standards of a state witness is the requirement of not being the most guilty.
Okay, and that's hard to determine. No? How do you even know kung dalawa yung may kasalanan? Kung pareho yung ginawa nyo, how do you say which one of them is the least guilty part?
Align with the program, if I may just share this, in legal theory, may tinatawag na theory of conspiracy, which means that if four of us decide to murder A, all of us are co-conspirators, which means all of us are equally guilty. So kung equally guilty tayo, how can you say you are more guilty than me, you're the most guilty, you are the least guilty?
So in other words, tayong apat won't qualify as a state witness.
Precisely.
Kasi
But in reality, from jurisprudence, most guilty, least guilty, there are already parameters. Otherwise, all conspiracy, wala magka-qualify under state witness, which is a stupid...
yung mga accessories, mga ganun, di ba?
Correct.
Right. Now, okay, we have received a lot of questions actually from our viewers, starting with Neil, who asks, if a person is declared as a state witness, does this mean that they cannot be charged for the crimes they were involved in? Is that an absolute, na dapat they have to be discharged or acquitted?
That's why we earlier talked about regular witness and state witness, no? Because if you're a state witness, you're discharged.
Meaning ma-acquit ka.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, and
Correct.
you cannot be prosecuted for the same offense.
In a sense, it's the technical meaning of it's not acquittal because you're no longer part of the charge sheet. So there's no process of acquitting you.
So you were not even charged at all?
Correct. Even if you're charged, you will be discharged, so you can be a state witness.
Yeah.
So your category will go back to regular witnesses about a crime.
Okay.
But the difference is, if you're a state witness, you have the protection
So
of the
kunwari,
state.
illegal detention yung kaso mo and you were discharged as a state witness, you can't even be prosecuted for that crime again.
Correct.
Okay.
In other words, there's parang immunity ba from suit.
But
Okay.
in this case, you can be discharged of serious illegal detention, but you can still be charged for plunder?
Any other crime, you can be charged. And the only thing is this.
Parang meron kang person in mind, Ron,
No,
but it's
I'm
okay.
not referring to anyone in particular. Just, for
Illegal
academic-
detention and then plunder.
For
Okay.
academic purposes.
And then
lang.
theoretically,
purposes.
Rod, in a certain case, if Mr. A fears for his life because he's a co-conspirator in a big case, no? He fears for his life. If he wants to surrender, he can surrender to any state authorities. If he happens to be with the police who provide safety, then that meets the requirements that you are protected from all your co-conspirators.
Kaya hindi ka pwedeng maging part ng
You can be a state
witness
witness.
protection, yeah.
You can be a state witness,
Yeah.
but without being quote-unquote immunized because you're not part of the program.
I
Okay.
see. All right.
And then we have another question from Selena who asks, how does the court decide or weigh their decision if the information a witness or whistleblower divulges is worth to be declared as a state witness?
Dean?
Still, the regular process, they have to wait the evidence presented. We will apply the rules of
Ano
evidence.
yan? Procedure? There's a procedure.
Yes, so,
From what I
there-
understand, they have to write a sworn testimony, a
yes.
sworn statement
Ano yung
of
process?
what their
Sworn
testimony
statement
is about.
Detailing the knowledge or the information they have regarding sa commission of the crime.
And then I have another question. So if you have this sworn statement saying kung ano yung magiging substance ng testimony mo, and it is from this testimony or sworn statement that the court will decide if you'll be a state witness, kung hindi ka nila tanggapin as a state witness, can they then use that testimony against you and against your co-conspirators?
No. In fact, the question from Selena is very insightful because now it talks about the evidentiary aspect. No? If there's a tinatawag natin na bail hearing for the purpose of determination bail, there's also a preliminary hearing on the application for a discharge. There's also a preliminary process there. So it's a mini trial within the bigger context of the trial.
I see.
That's how it works. Of course, if you have to go evidentiary, it's in the details already.
Okay. And I have more to ask you guys after this break. But in the meantime, Legal Help Desk will return after these reminders. Yeah. You're still watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News Channel, and we are still joined by our guest, Dean Jemmy Lito Festin of the PUP College of Law and DOJ Assistant Secretary Geronimo C. But before we continue our discussion, let's read some of the comments posted on our Facebook and Twitter pages. We asked our viewers their opinions on whether they agree on the possibility of making Janet Napoles a state witness to the pork barrel scam. Here's what they had to say. Adrian says, yes, she might help in revealing corrupt politicians and delving the case further. Kichi ACS wrote, a resounding no. She, along with all the public officials involved, should be prosecuted in the courts of the law. Okay, so mixed.
Right, yeah. Meanwhile, Joe wrote, it depends on what kind of deal she wants and who's making it on the part of the government. I trust the judicial system to make a deal than the politicians because some of them do not want to be mentioned in her testimony. But she has not even been charged of anything in connection with the scam. And at Heli55_ says, the people has no say on this, just the court, period. Ayan. So you get a kind of a feel of the general sentiment of ano. Now let's talk about when you're getting into the program, the witness protection program, you enter into an agreement, like a memorandum of agreement with the government. Is that correct? What's included in that memorandum of agreement?
It's a contractual arrangement, the breach of which you can be cited for contempt, and all your benefits could be cancelled, plus you'll be reinstated as charged. Basically, it lays out the terms that you will testify fully, honestly. You will not hide any material information.
So kasama na dyan na consistent dapat yung sworn statement with what you're really going to say in court.
And I just want to emphasize this whole point of the most guilty. It's a balancing rule, no? Most guilty doesn't mean that you're the one who collected the most money. You're not, because for example, a mastermind orders an assassin to kill A. Who is the more guilty or the most guilty there? The whole point of the Witness Protection Program is to smoke out, is to convict those people who are ordinarily not caught. The mastermind, the big minds, the big fishes. No? That is a whole perspective of witness protection, and this idea of whistleblowing. You wanna get the big fish. Even though the most guilty in this sense, siya yung bumaril, but in the context between the mastermind who would probably get 10 assassins and who has the means to pay for it and an assassin, how do you determine the most guilty?
Right.
That's only one aspect of the determination, yung most guilty or not.
Right.
The other aspect is, what are the evidences that's needed, no? And this is where the crime, yung tinatawag na grave felony, comes in. If it's a murder or rape, where it happens in the secret compartments, then testimonial evidence is very important. Wala ka namang documentation, wala kang ibang forensic evidence na available. But in certain white-collar crimes, no, estafa, fraud, checks,
We have documents.
you have documents.
And you
If
have
those
other
are
evidence.
enough, then the testimonial evidence will not be as important as you would
I see.
if you have enough expert documentary forensic analysis that will also collaborate or even prove that.
Okay.
Crime.
And I have another question. Since we're talking about witness protection, we're also curious about special treatment naman for being either one of the accused. So sometimes yung iba hindi pa sila nadi-discharge as a state witness or they're not even part of the witness protection program. And yet they're treated differently compared to other accused. So when they go to prison for a non-bailable offense, imbes na regular na presinto or kulungan na kasama yung iba, they have an air-conditioned cottage,
Parang you're
they
referring
have
to someone
a
else
TV.
na
Not just someone, but in the
okay.
past, di ba, nangyari na yan. So I sometimes wonder, bakit ito mas maganda yung conditions
Or
niya?
minsan hospital, di ba?
Yeah, hospital. So, hospital arrest,
counted ba yun sa
and then
VIP?
you have cottage arrest na
Yeah.
may TV pa. So,
Yeah.
why is that? Ano yung difference nito?
Okay, I think to contextualize that, no, different treatment doesn't mean special and vice versa. For the simple reason as two things. One, instead of talking about it as special or VIP treatment, we look at the with conditions of our jail system. We're starting from a very low base. No? In the Philippine context, summer or even in regular periods, electric fan is a basic necessity. It's like water, it's like food. But we're starting from a low base. We have such a bad detention system. That's a bad Christian system. That's underinvestment in the justice sector. Anything beyond that, electric fan, washing machine, or even a light, naging special treatment na. Because we're starting from a very, very low base. Mali din naman yon.
Okay.
We should basic human conditions.
Yeah.
The basic naman. The whole point of detention, of being incarcerated, imprisonment, the whole point is to take away your liberty of movement. Para hindi ka maggagawa ng krimen, you have time to think, to reform, to pray, to reflect. That's the whole point of it. Hindi yung pag-imprisonment mo, yung suffering mo, yung torture mo, is because of your physical surroundings of congestion, walang access to basic human conditions.
Right. Oo.
So, dapat ganun ang
But that is already happening. So, bakit yung iba exempted from those terrible conditions compared to the others?
One is, of course, there are legitimate reasons. No, if you look at everyone in the prison, because of the congestion system, may skin conditions, may heart conditions, everyone would have certain conditions. But if you don't have the means for it, you don't have the quote-unquote capacity to do it, then you'll be left with your sickness.
With the basic,
Wala ka ng ibang choice.
whatever they have
You
there.
can't afford it. Like any other person, you cannot afford a house. You're in the streets. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is this: because of the nature of the crime, for example, nanggahasa ka ng 6-year-old, and all the inmates will gang up on you. Then you need a special treatment to have a special cell
Okay.
because of your
Because of the
special
kind of-
circumstances.
your circumstances.
But it's not a special treatment. Dapat malinaw
It's just
natin.
to protect you.
Correct.
Also. Now let's shift a bit about naman those who are involved in the witness protection program. Now, let's go back to that. And Dean, maybe you can answer this. There's a responsibility on the part of those involved in the proceeding, especially the witness, on the confidentiality aspect. And I from my understanding is that if you could breach that confidentiality, you can go to jail.
Yes, you will be liable. And also, if you later on refuse to testify, then you can be charged with contempt, or if you testify falsely, make a sworn statement which is not true, then you can commit perjury.
So, madadagdagan pa yung offense mo than from when you started. We have another question from Jad. He wants to know, in the case of Napoles, is she qualified to be considered a state witness? Does that mean that she is under the protection of the WPP, so Witness Protection Program?
Okay, no.
Maybe Dean can
Dean,
answer
maybe you
this.
can
What's
answer
your
this.
opinion? Is
Your
she
opinion.
qualified?
Well, first of all, what is the charge? Di ba? What is the crime charge against?
I guess
her?
yung currently is for
Is for
illegal
illegal-
detention.
serious illegal detention, oh.
Yeah, based on at least the facts that we know.
Well, hindi yun. It's hindi elements ng plunder yun. So it's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
For as long as she can meet all the requisites, like yung absolute necessity of the testimony, and this is the only direct available evidence.
Yeah.
And yun nga does not appear to be the
The most
I think at the
guilty.
point we have
With the
to...
illegal detention, do you think kaya niya malusutan yung requirement na she appears not to be the most guilty? Kasi parang yung victim,
it's
supposed
very hard,
victim,
eh.
Ben Hurloy was saying siya yung nagpa-kidnap. So, is that...
Well, I really don't know the facts of the case, pero dapat there should be at least 2 persons who are accused of the,
Yeah.
and then
Dapat, 2 or more, no? 2 or more.
2 or more.
persons.
Yeah. And then
I guess the challenge...
the whole point is dapat walang miscarriage of justice.
Yeah.
There has to be somebody who's gonna be responsible.
And then, would she qualify for the Witness Protection Program?
Factually, she's not covered by the Witness Protection Program as of now. Whether or not she qualifies will subject to that process when you get
The interesting thing here is that parang, in a way, the whole, well, a lot of people in society want her for something else. It's not really for the serious illegal detention. So that, I guess that's a tricky part there. No? Now, our last question is from, last question from Ryan, and he asks, can a witness be disqualified or discharged from the WPP if the testimony he gave is no longer needed? What will happen to them after the WPP program, and can they go back to having a normal life?
If you look at witness protection, the whole law is witness protection, security, and benefits. Na kaya lang, because of the shortness of the law, we just call it witness protection. We forget that it's also a witness benefit program. Now you have the right of vocation, a change of identity, change of name. You can be relocated abroad. Now, I will not go as far as changing your physical face.
Hindi kasama yun.
Parang libreng
Hospitalization.
On paper, you can do that for so long as you're able to have a clean slate after your whole witness
on paper, you can do it.
Yes,
Yeah.
because the whole idea is you have to start afresh.
Okay, I'm interested in this first part of his question, which means that what if suddenly your testimony no longer becomes necessary? Maybe siguro in the middle of the trial, may biglang surprise witness na ganun din
Another star
ka-importante sinabi that actually helps prosecute the case. Will they suddenly be discharged or disqualified?
It has, I think it has a fork, no? If you had responsibility that your testimony is no longer needed because you failed to disclose or some burden on it, then this scenario can possibly
Na
take
disqualified.
place. But if you're
Okay.
totally in good faith, you had nothing to do with it, it so happens that there's newly discovered evidence or something that came out, and you held true to the memorandum with the state, then the state is duty bound to give you that measure of protection until it's done.
Okay, wow.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Wow,
Yes.
we've received a ton of comments from our viewers on our Facebook and Twitter pages regarding the Napoles issue. And here are their answers to our poll question. Would you agree to a possibility of making Janet Napoles a state witness to the pork barrel scam? Mike answered yes, but with conditions. Ako si Japni tweeted, yes, she is the key in identifying those politicians behind the scam. Lock her up in safety.
Wow,
Okay.
good.
All right.
Meanwhile, Cindy wrote, not if it means she will be granted immunity. Maybe a lesser sentence, but not immunity. And Isaiku tweeted, if government rejects her as state witness, that only means they already have strong documentary evidence. And finally, Eric said, yes, if she tells all. I'd rather see politicians go to jail.
Wow.
Oh, parang
There you go.
rule of the mob. They're hungry for blood.
Parang nga eh. But this is obviously a very sensitive topic,
Yes.
and I think we had a kind of a world record here in the number of tweets and posts that we
Yeah.
had, no.
But I think it's good
yeah.
that they learn more. What
Yes,
does it really
it's
entail
interesting.
to become a state witness? What does it mean to be in the witness protection program? Maybe some of the opinions will change after
Right.
they know more about this.
And unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for tonight. But that
Last
doesn't
words,
mean
Pagawala.
our discussion ends here.
Normally kaya
You can post your comments or reactions of our episode for
10
tonight
seconds.
on our Facebook page or on Twitter. We hope to have a part 2 with these guys, but we'd like to thank our guests, Dean Jemmy Lito Festin of the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, PUP College of Law, and Assistant Secretary Geronimo C. of the Department of Justice for joining us tonight and explaining the Witness Protection Program. I'm Attorney Rod Nepomuceno.
And I'm Attorney Karen Jimeno. Join us again next Monday as we discuss your legal rights. Good night.